Hello. Today we have come to the module 2, and we are going to look at the various sources such as literature to ask relevant questions. And this module will guide you to find relevant data to build your research. And it's very important to mention at the beginning of this module that we will be guiding you to do this research, but we expect you as a prerequisite of this course to have, worked on the different courses that is leading you to this class in your senior years. So you will be knowing about the research methods and how to collect data from another class, but this class is actually there to guide you to do a special senior project by using those knowledge. So we will be pointing you to different sources, but we will not be going too much in depth into each of this categories. For example, for data collection, we will not be teaching you how to actually download the Census Bureau data, but I can always point you to how you collect the data. You would not be learning how to create databases and tables and analyzing this data, but you will know what you have to do as a next step to move forward with your specific project. So having said that, let's begin with problems to sources. And today I will be talking primarily about literature review. So we will see what are the three types of sources to solve the problem that you have already stated. Here we mean research problem, right? So we have three types of sources on the topic: primary, secondary, and tertiary. By primary source, I mean the original material that provide you with the raw data. So for example, if you are trying to solve some economic development issues, you would be looking at the number of jobs or the growth in the number of jobs. So here, the primary jobs data per block group or county or per block might be your original data source. So that's your primary source. The secondary source would be books, articles, journals, or reports that are based on the various primary sources. So basically, even if you are doing a literature review, they are pointing you to solve the problem through a primary data source, but they are still like somewhat secondary sources for your topic. And those journals and reports that are based on these data sets, for example, if you are working on something called economic development, and then you are looking at the growth of economic development in a particular area. So there would be papers and journals that would be showing you how to do that. And people have already worked with the data to find out how economic development is measured, for example. So you will be tagging them as secondary source. Then the tertiary source would be the books and articles that synthesize and report on the secondary sources for general readers. And a good example of that would be textbooks. So in the textbook, you don't really see that people have worked with, original data to solve a particular problem, but they really show you some methods. They really show you, how other journals or papers have used those materials and give you snippets of that. So they are basically the tertiary sources. As we move forward in the class, it will give you like you will do various assignments and you will know what these three types of sources are. And it's important to say that these three sources are not always remaining in these restrictive categories. For example, sometimes they might have fuzzy boundaries. For example, a journal or encyclopedia would become a primary source of your research problem if it is concerned with the field itself. For example, if you are studying how concentrated poverty has been documented or researched in urban planning, the journals on concentrated poverty might become if your raw data if you are doing just the literature review. So maybe you are publishing a literature review paper only. So then all the literature that you have collected, all the journals that you have collected becomes your raw data. So then your census data is no more your raw data, but the journals becomes your raw data. So I can give you more examples on that when we meet on our in-person classes. So what is literature review? A literature review can be a part of a research paper or scholarly article, and it's usually falling after the introduction and before the research method sections. So most literature reviews use a basic introduction, body, conclusion, or a conclusion structure. And then it explains what your working topic or thesis is, or it forecasts a key topics or text that will appear in the review. So for example, when you are conducting a literature review, initially you have to come up with the introduction of the literature review, explaining, I have this topic, and this is why I'm doing the literature review. And these are the kind of key subtopics or areas of text that will appear in my literature review. And you can describe how you found those literature and how you analyze those literature for including and discussing it in the review. Next, you will have a body of the literature review, as I said, because there is three parts to the literature review, and this is the second part after introduction. So you have to summarize and synthesize and give an overview of the papers that you have studied or the journals or the books that you have studied. So you do that and combine them coherently. So you are not just putting in, this paper said this, that paper said that, but you are synthesizing the knowledge that what are the commonalities of these papers or what are the differences in the knowledge that this paper shows. So basically you are analyzing, interpreting, and adding those interpretation into the paper. Then you critically evaluate the strength and weakness of all the sources, and then draw conclusion, comparison, and contrast between the knowledge you have shared through the literature. So that's the body of your literature review. Then in the conclusion, you summarize and emphasize the significance of the literature review you have done. So it's not just the body that is synthesizing and synthesizing, but you also have to say that, in summary from the literature review, we have learned this. And then you have to connect how that knowledge from the literature review can help you, answer some of your primary research problem, and then what questions you might be asking on the topic of your research problem. So, in conclusion, I would like to say that you organize your review either chronologically, meaning, date-wise, which literature appeared before, which literature appeared later. You can also have a thematic way of arranging your literature. Sometimes it's helpful to, if it's your paper is very focused on scientific methods or methods of study, then you would be focusing more on the methods and you would be dividing those literature methodologically. And the fourth would be, sometimes this literature are actually stating the different theoretical concepts in a paper. So then it might be helpful for you to subdivide those subsections in the literature review or the body of the literature review through different theoretical lenses. So sometimes it might be useful to combine two of the methods, two of the ways. For example, sometimes I would use a chronological and thematic way. So for chronology, I would try to make a chart where the different literature have appeared over time. And I would give a timeline of that and say that, oh, this is the time that theme or that theory has appeared or that method has appeared in the literature. And so your reader would know that, okay, so in 1937, this particular theory came in. And then in 1950s, this is the, a theory that started coming in around that topic. And so they will know what has been done and around which time in history. So that will give them a good understanding of the flow of the literature. And at the same time, you will be doing, subsections on different theories or different themes. And so they will also read that section and know what's going on. So organization of your literature review is more of an art than, just dumping in the literature. So it's very important for you to make a careful assessment of what you have done. There are different tools that you can use to build your literature review. So MS Word is one of the tools that you can use and which is by default a citation tool that's embedded in MS Word. Sometimes I think and I feel that when I'm doing a very big research study, for example, thesis or some, paper for my research, I love to use a more systematic way of combining all the PDFs of the journals or books, ebooks, etc. So then I use different citation managers such as Mendeley, Zotero, or EndNote. I think it might be a good idea to look at the different videos that I have shared in the module 2. There are all some brief YouTube video clips, and then try to experiment a little bit with which citation manager is helpful for you, easy to use, and then try to stick to one tool and have all your papers and everything organized that way. So yeah, those are super helpful. And let me know if you have any questions, then we would address those as we move forward. And you have an assignment coming up on your literature review. So make a note of that and try to use these tools to help you do the assignment.